Hi, my name is Calyn, and welcome to the Create Your Character panel at Afro Comic Con. So, this is Afro Comic Con's virtual 2020 event, and thank you for joining us here. Please consider donating to the Afro Comic Con Moonshot Junior program that funds young girls of color to go through a 12-month program where they will learn tech skills, innovation, product development, and entrepreneurship. Click the link to donate. Any amount will help. The information will be on the website. As somebody who very briefly went to programming school, this is very, very important, okay? So today we're here to create characters and build some worlds, right? So I have my art glove on, and we're going to be taking a look at Dill. Here we go. So as a bit of a backstory, I created Dill when I was 6 years old. And he has been around ever since. He is actually with us today. So he was created in 1998. This is a specific diagram that will show you everything about him, how to draw him from, circa 1999. And I will let you know that you can create your own character as well. So he was the only thing that I would ever draw. The teachers were actually kind of frustrated by it, but I kept doing it. And it turned into this entire world of Dill. So this is the Dill world that we were talking about building. So what is character creation and what is world building? Well, they're both connected. Strong characters build strong worlds. So if you have characters that are themselves have their own sort of way of being and can almost function independently of you, then you will build a very strong world. So let's start with creating strong characters. Who is Dill? Dill is a 10-year-old with existential issues and a lemon stand. He is always having trouble in school because he doesn't fit in. He has learning difficulties, and the teachers are impatient. So we have a bit of, real life inspiration going on here from people that I know, notably my brother. And then we also have a bit of fiction going on, and we just put the two together, and it turns into this character that is his own thing. So stories put your characters in situations, situations create three-dimensional characters, and then you can give your characters real life situations through observation. So the way Dill was created was only through like seeing how other people acted. My brother is very close in age. I have two of them, but one of them is very close in age to me. And so we play together all the time. And I saw the struggles that he went through in school. And that manifested as Dill, where he is always wanting to do well, but it just doesn't work. And in a way, it's a bit of a tragedy. And then as you get older, things add on. You add on to these. You add on to your character through your own struggles. And one of the struggles that I was having was an existential one. See, it's even hard to like get out there because it's a deep struggle that I've always had, and then it transferred into this character, right? So observation, of yourself and of others, that'll definitely bring together something, and it's all about developing that thing. Now, let's think of these as character situations. Okay, so I'll read off some of these. Dill has learning difficulties, but his teachers are impatient. Deland, his best friend, is extroverted, but socially inept. Deland is bad at conveying emotions, but always states his opinions. Delana is an optimist, but her twin brother, Deland, is a nihilist. Zelensky wants to be a billionaire and also an obscure performance artist. So you'll notice that a lot of it is irony and not just like sort of irony and opposition. And taking that can actually almost form a character in and of itself. So saying Dill has learning difficulties, but his teachers are impatient is character. And all you have to do is build from there. So you just need that one time like situation and irony. So these characters have, these characters give these situations, these character situations, I like to call them character situations, give characters the chance to show and develop personality, notably through contradiction and irony. So Dill having learning difficulties, but his teachers being impatient is a situation for him, right? So he will kind of have to fit in the school system, and it's not working. So what's going to come out are things that he says and does that appear rude, wrong, or just like plain out there. And it's because of that situation that you will see this from the character. Let's try. I would like you to try with me. I have my iPad over here. I'd like us together create situations for a character. And with that, I'll show you my blank screen over here. So invent a series of contradictions or irony for your character. These will be character situations. So let's use the example of Jimin never takes off his huge glasses. He loves them so much, but he also has a passion for boxing. So that's a recipe for disaster. That's kind of what we're looking for with a character. Now, I'm just gonna draw a very crude looking character, Dill, over here. And we're just going to create a new layer and make this, take the opacity down on this one. So I should have mentioned that, yes, any pen and paper will do. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to look great. Actually, if it doesn't look great, that's a good sign because that means that you're really getting your ideas out there, okay? The point is to get the idea. So here we have a character. We're going to do another kid from school, right? So let's name this kid Darwin. He has like a huge hair. He has huge hair. Loves his hair. So his hair is important to him. So he loves his hair. He brings a comb to class every day. Every day. But he's a very messy kid. So the way he treats his hair is completely unrelated to the way he treats the rest of himself. So he always has his collar's always messed up. He's got his tie kind of untied. See, what did we name him? Did we name him Darwin? Let's just go ahead and name him Darwin. So he's a very messy kid. And now why is he a messy kid? Well, he's a history buff, of course. And he's more concerned about hair in history books than taking care of things like his room. So this is our character that we have right here. I'd love to know what you come up with as well. I think that could be fun. So we have our character Darwin. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to create another layer and we're going to explore the contradictions of Dill, the character Dill. How contradictions actually shaped this character. So here's the best drawing of Dill you will ever see. Right here. Okay? All we want is to know which character we're talking about. We really don't care right now how good this is going to look. The more time you spend kind of, finessing when you're like drawing your character for the first time, or when you just want to get out some details, the more time you spend finessing the look of the character, the less time you'll have to actually really focus on him. So that's not what we're focusing on at this very minute. So Dill, we already spoke about his learning difficulties. But Dill is also an anarchist. He is an anarchist, but he owns a lemon stand, a business, with the goal of conquering. So he always wants to grow some type of thing, something going on, a business, a movement, a this or that. But he likes being the leader. Dill is a natural leader. He loves to conquer, and not conquer necessarily in a negative way every single time, but he loves being the leader of the situation. He loves taking things, occupying things, and changing things. That's what he loves to do. So that is a huge contradiction with the character. How does that affect the story? What happens is that it creates an entire plot. So It's Hard Being Dill is a project that I'm currently working on right here. It is about Dill, who is having a lot of confrontation at school, especially with the nuns who are teachers. He is always sent to the principal's office, and one day he's sick of it, and he's like, it's it. We have to rise up as students. We have to demand things. We have to get what we want. And so he decides, along with other students, that he will lead this revolution. So that is where we get our biggest contradiction with Dill. We could also just say that character building has a lot to do with paradoxes, because as soon as you set in a paradox, it makes a character a lot more interesting. If you have a character that just enjoys, like, oh, I like to eat ice cream and have a good time, whatever, there's not much else to say about the character. They need to have something that's not quite making sense. And it's sort of because that's how real people are. Real people don't actually make sense. When you meet people, a lot of times they'll have these very strong beliefs, but then they'll have something that is contradicting their belief, or they'll have something that's getting in the way of their belief and they want to change. And through that, you can create some character arcs of, like, maybe the character actually gets over these things. Maybe they learn new things. Maybe Dill realizes that he doesn't always need to be the leader, but it's in his personality to be a natural born leader. Okay, so let's move on. Your character will grow with you. Personalities evolve over time. So the important here, Dill is, technically speaking, 21 years old. He has been a character for a very long time, but most importantly, I was drawing him every day. So he has changed a lot over time while still being himself, because I grew up with him. It's almost like he was a friend, and I grew up with him. So be true to what your cartoon would say and do. While other people may influence the design, keep with what feels right to you. Sorry for the typo. But that is the most important aspect of this, is that if you're going to make a character, you want to make a character that feels right to you, that has doesn't have to have like morals that you agree with, really, but this has to be a character that does not feel forced. This is something that is important to touch on, though. There's a lot that goes on with creating characters for diversity, and it's fine if you want to create diversity. However, the importance with that is to create something that is authentic, and that you're not creating a character for the sake of having diversity in your world. all right? Because people can see, anyone can see that. It's very easy to see when you've created a character just so that they can represent something in your world. Oftentimes people can see because that will be the only character that looks the way that they do, that their skin color or if they have a disability or whatever it is that was added just for that. So yeah, that's why you don't want to create token characters. Instead, if you feel like you're not creating diverse enough characters, one of the ways to resolve that is actually by just exposing yourself more to people who are not like yourself. So maybe if you feel like you're not drawing, characters of a certain color, well, think about who you're surrounded by also, and think of the media you consume. Like, how much media do you consume with people who look like you? How much do you consume with people that don't look like you? Right? Are you diversifying the media that you consume is really important, because that'll help you come up with ideas naturally, and then you'll think of characters more naturally instead of just thinking of them as some box that needs to be ticked out. Because yes, anyway, that can lead to tokenizing. So you want to avoid that. But then also when it comes to people saying, hey, I don't think your character is like this, you need to add this aspect of your character needs this skill, your character needs that. Sometimes people have a point, it's true, but if that point doesn't fit with your character, then stay true to who they are. Do not change like a character's hair color because another person said this is the way it should be, or this is the way that I think your character should look, and I know more than you, etc. Do what you know is right. So long as your character is not obviously not mocking another person or something like that, then it's almost like your character will tell you what it is supposed to be. Try it. So make a diagram of your character with her quirks, likes, and dislikes. Okay, so how about we make a character called, well, you make your character, and I will make a character called Dillinger. So Dillinger, right here, we're just gonna briefly draw the head. They all have the same head shape, so that makes things a lot easier, for sure. So here's our character, Dillinger. I'm going to go on ahead and actually make the character look a little bit smaller so that we can show the entire body. All right. So this is our character, Dillinger. Going to wear short sleeves and holding a basketball right here. Okay. And shorts. Still in the school uniform. So I have Dillinger. Now we just need to add some hair. We're gonna there. So let's give Dillinger curly hair. Now, this character, just by the pose and what he's holding, you can see that this is a confident character. So this is what we're going to write. So the way you draw them will show their poses, the way they're standing, and that will show their personality. So you have one that's slouched over a little bit like this, that's going to be a character that's a little bit more shy or insecure or wants to hide or something like that, maybe introverted. But a character that's more confident might have a hand in their pocket, but might be standing a little bit towards the back, leaning a little bit backwards like that. So here is the ball, because it's a very sports oriented. So confident stand. And then they have little quirks. So, like, right hand always in the pocket, right? There's this French comedian called Jamel Debbouze, and he always has, I forget if it's his right or his left hand, is always in his pocket because it's deformed. But it kind of became a cartoonish thing. It was like his thing. So everybody knows that he has a hand in his pocket. Like that's just part of the comedy. It actually makes him funnier somehow. And so that is a bit of a cartoonish aspect to him that's very interesting. So right hand always in pocket. Maybe like he has a scar from sucking his thumb all the time when he was a kid. Some kids actually had that. There was this girl that developed like these weird scars on her fingers from just gnawing at them constantly. So that would tell us having something like that little aspect to him, that would tell us that he has confidence on the outside, but he does have insecurities. He's not confident enough to show that he used to suck his thumb all the time. So he's a little insecure about that. But he does sort of project this image of like, I know what I'm doing and all that. So I think we all know a lot of people like that. So he's enough to matter in real life, I suppose. So he always has something to hold or show off, something to show off. Show off. You can write little sarcastic things sometimes, like hair is a trophy. So we can imagine that his room is covered and covered and covered in trophies and medals, and he's very, very proud of it. His parents show him off all the time. He just knows he's good at what he does. Here, let's make him a soccer player. It's soccer, I think, in English. I never knew why. Everywhere else you say football. So yeah, he's a soccer player. He's a soccer superstar. There was a thing like that when I was a kid. There were these kids that were just totally convinced that they'd become like Zidane or something like that when they grew up. They'd just be these soccer superstars. So he's 100% convinced that's going to happen. I don't know how competitive it is, but I can imagine it's just like the NBA or anything like that. So he is 100% sure he's going to make it. And then we could, so 100% sure he'll make it. But we can also imagine that, how about he doesn't in the future? Like that, just add that a little bit to it. How about he doesn't make it? And he's going to go back, and because he built his entire identity around being a success, and he has failed at the one thing that he wants to succeed at most, what is he going to go back and do? You see? So we have that. That's something to show off. Constantly rolls his here's a little detail. He has the short sleeves here, but he rolls the short sleeves. Okay, so right here, I have his rolled short sleeves. So that kind of shows a part of his personality. Short sleeves. And we'll also add the fact that his tie is hidden over here instead of having it properly placed like the kids are supposed to have. So that's a school uniform. He always keeps it neat, even though he likes to play sports. But when when he actually gets his shoes dirty, of course, he is that one kid where everyone excuses it. So everyone is like, oh, it's fine because he's just training to become a professional. So dirty shoes, no one cares. So now we have our very crude character. I would love to see yours. This is Dillinger over here. These are the beginnings of the character. So we can move on to world building. Now, world building is really, I was going to say world building is huge, but we know who speaks like that. World building is this big endeavor, okay? It takes a very long time to build a proper world. One of the ways to do it is to use a pre-existing world, meaning ours. So if you're doing parody comics, here's an example from when I went to programming school and I did my first school parody comic. You'll notice the left looks just like the right. The world is computers. That was the school. The world was just computers. So we were at our desks all the time. It was a 3-story building filled with Macs, and that was it. So that was very simple. There was no actual world to build. It was just one that already existed. You can use that, and you can parody it. Time and place, those are the main things that you want to know about your world. Does it take place in a specific time, and does it take place in a specific place? So for the Dill world, there is no specific time and there is no specific place on our Earth. So Dill is not necessarily in the United States or necessarily in France, but he is in his own Dilliverse, and so the Dilliverse has their own, continents, etc. But they reference countries and continents that actually exist within our world. So their world is almost just a 2D version of us, right? That is another option, is to just have a cartoon version of our world. So you can have America, but you don't need to show the Statue of Liberty. You can have very simple things like that, right? The time is, in a sense, important to know whether or not you want this to be a timeless place or if you want it to be set in the future, in the past, or in the present. Those are important things. That brings us to a question. So someone asked, how do I start world building with a futuristic setting? And I wanted to pick this one because that's such a good question. Now, I am not a science fiction specialist, so I'd like to recommend any podcast episode that is about science fiction on Star Talk, the podcast by Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an astrophysicist. He has he has great guests on, and they explain the importance of science fiction, but also they talk a lot about world building because you have to. And so if you want to get it from a scientist perspective, I really recommend doing that. That being said, the way I would answer it is to determine what type of future, imaginary, dystopian, or optimistic, what problems does our society still have and which ones has it solved. Then use the steps you would for a present world. So you do want to know, are we still at war with each other, right? That's good. That's huge. That will affect the way your world is. That'll affect the way your characters act. Does war still exist, or are we at war with is everyone at war with each other all the time? Do we have very sophisticated artificial intelligence? Are we actually back to a cruder state of being? Have we lost all technology? Is that the future that you're thinking of? Are you thinking of a future in a city or a future in the country? Because those are very different things. Every time we think of the future, a lot of times we think of a giant city that's like full of buildings and all these things are happening. It's just Blade Runner and chaos everywhere. So what kind of future do you want, right? Or you want a sort of Black Mirror future where it looks so specific to our day and age already? And instead have characters that are just doing what we would normally do with a little bonus of a few extra pieces of technology here and there. And then you'll think about how to build your world in the same way that you would build any world of any time. So, time to try. Imagine a future of yourself as a cartoon. So describe what house and neighborhood, what your house and neighborhood would be like. So what your current house and neighborhood would be like in the future. And we're going to build that world. So me personally, I'm going to use the place that I grew up in, on Rue Crozetier in the 12th in Paris when I was a kid. And then I will think of that as a futuristic place because it has changed a lot since we moved to Bagnolet. So, two very different places. There we go. And so that version of me, I like to think that I always live in the future. So we're just going to keep a little cartoon stick figure like version of me. And we're going to think of a street. Let's actually rotate this. That'll be more interesting. So I'll focus on the street. It was just very Paris is very windy, but some places are also very linear, like in if you've ever been to New York and everything is a grid. Well, Paris is the opposite, but some streets are very straightforward. So ours was very straightforward and had beautiful buildings. Not as beautiful on the inside as on the outside, but beautiful exterior buildings. So we're going to think of, and this would actually be kind of fun if you want to steal this idea. To think of Paris in the future is the most fascinating thing because Paris is one of those cities that really wants to preserve old culture, doesn't want to change the architecture and none of that. You know, you look at Dubai, right? Dubai is just on another level. They're completely in the future. They have left everyone. And so Paris is the opposite. I see a lot of buildings being built in New York just every 2 seconds, and that is not something that would happen. So would we have vegetation? Let's say we're going to have simulation trees. They simulate nature, so then whenever you like touch one, they're not real. Simulate nature. We'll make them full of wires. Let's do a type of dystopian type thing like that. So here we have our trees. They're full of wires. Let me see if you can see a little bit better here. So these are trees full of wires. And what we're going to have are windows, but we're going to board all of the windows up. So people block out the light, and instead of using their own light, instead of using the outside light, they use their own artificial light on the inside. So everything's going to be boarded up like this. These are very crude looking drawings, but we're really just trying to get the idea out there. We don't really care how aesthetically pleasing it is. So here we board it up, and these trees, because they're made of wires, you can charge things in them. So this is a future where instead of eliminating wires, like we imagine the future will be, we have added wires. We have wires everywhere. I like to think of futures that are absolutely ridiculous in fictional settings just for fun. They're absolutely ridiculous, total pollution, they to complete waste everywhere. It's gone absolutely absurd. Rubber, plastic, metal wires, fire hazards all the time. Things kind of a threatening type of future, right? Except for people here have boarded themselves up inside, and we can say it's for, maybe safety in this future here. Excuse me. There. And we should do, because it's Paris, and there are these beautiful rooftops that are very scary to climb up on. Let's just do something with that. So we will make lunar panels on this one. I just had an idea. I was like, yeah, let's try. Okay, so we're gonna make lunar panels on these, but these lunar panels will be coming from a third moon that is now rotating around the Earth. I always find it. Oh, I'm sorry. I always find it really funny seeing different moons, like in movies. Whenever you see the planet has a second moon or a third moon, it just really means, yeah, we really went far out there into the future to say it's, planets have had enough time to form, shift. Yeah, okay, all right. So yeah, I love that. That's like really when you're in some alien planet or something and they got like 15 different moons, or yeah, I love those. So there, lunar solar panels, because it is often dark out. And so that is another reason why people will keep their windows closed, so that they can put artificial light in it. And the interior of the windows will actually show a screen that's very realistic looking, and it has like smells, and it even has air going through to pretend like it's wind, and it looks like nature. So it looks like you're in the countryside. So people will not want to look outside because it is a terrible, terrible dystopian time. Characters build your world brick by brick. They really do. If it were not for the Dill characters, these worlds would not exist, because characters feed into the world. Really, they build your world. How characters act within a setting will help build your world. What house did they live in? What kind of friends did they have? Where is your favorite hangout spot? Like, just think about your life. Think about how you build your own community. So you come into the world, you're in this new place, and you, as a child, start making friends. You go to school, you go to church, you do this, you do that. And then you know everyone around you, right? If you look at yourself, just think of yourself, you sort of built that world. You built your own world around you, right? You put all these things out there, and people respond, and it just like all comes into place, and that is your world. You wake up every day, you think, oh, I have to go to school, and after I go to school, I got to go to the supermarket with my mom, and I got to go see so and so and this and that. And then that is your world. You're not thinking of what your mom is thinking when she wakes up. You're a kid. It doesn't matter. So that is something that you should be looking at. And then maybe when you get older and you get your own apartment, you move into a new neighborhood, and you have to make friends, and you have to know your neighbors and this and all. And you're also building, again, you're building your world. We all build our own worlds. So it's not so much different with a character. All you're doing with the character is that you're starting from complete scratch, right? You don't have anything pre-existing because this is fiction, right? You're inventing this. So once you get over the fact that it's from scratch and that you're doing this as though it was you starting over, somewhere, then at that point you can begin to build a real world. The benefit is that also you are from the point of view of multiple people. So one character will have a routine of, I wake up in the morning, I get my bread, I get my butter, and I eat. I read the newspaper, then I go off to work, etc. Another character might have the routine of I wake up, I get my beer, I go, I get and sit on my couch, I watch TV, I go to bed. So each character has their own way of being that contributes in some way or other to the world. And the way these characters will interact with each other will be like, maybe Dill decides that he wants to go to the dollar store to go pick something up because he wants a snack, he wants a candy bar. And then he accidentally knocks down like 10 jars of jam because he just bumped into it by accident because he's clumsy. And the store owner, also named Dill, is because it's Dill's dollar store. So the store owner, Dill, that changes his day because he realizes that that was the last jam that was in stock. And another character loves that kind of jam, and that character will never come back to the store again because that kind of jam will not be there. It'll cause a fit. And that character, because they're upset and they can't find a jam at that store anymore because it's all broken, they're going to have to go to another store. And then that store turns out is a 30-minute drive. So it's like a whole thing. It's like a chain reaction, of course, like you have in life, only that you're the one that's orchestrating all of this. It's kind of a power trip in a way, in an evil way, if you really want to put it that way. So yeah, think of it like a web. Think of it that way, right? You have control over all of these characters. You can do anything you want. Now, it's time to build your world. Here, create your own. Come up with keywords, create a character around it. Look at a news story and create a character central to the story. Build a world with the strange laws of physics. Build an absurd world. I do want to say, for the absurd world, think of, opposites, kind of like we were talking about before, things that don't make sense. So if you're an Ionesco fan, or if you're a fan of absurd theater, then you've probably seen some very strange things. But think of something that's just a little bit ridiculous. Like, instead of sitting on chairs, chairs don't exist, right? This is a world where we all sit on yoga balls, right? So just imagine something like that. Imagine a conference room of yoga balls. Building a world with strange laws of physics. Maybe instead of taking a step on a ground, you bounce like this, just like if you were on a trampoline. Then look at a news story and create a character central to the story. This is probably the most fun thing to do, is to look at something that actually happened and elaborate on it, right? Another similar thing that I used to find fun was going in the yellow pages and sorry, the white pages, and looking up people's names and just inventing something when I knew nothing about them but their name. So that is something, but a news story actually gives you some context. For example, something might have happened to someone, good or bad, but you don't know the rest of the story. So what about creating a character that knows that person and they're concerned? Or maybe your character is trying to find something out and they happen to be a witness in the story, or they're a detective and they are also the ones that are reading it in the newspaper and they want to figure out more. So you can build something around that will help you build a world as well and build a character. The keywords are also pretty easy to do at any time, so this is good practice if you want to think about, like, oh yeah, maybe take some random words from the dictionary and then just create a character out of that, or look in a book, take some random words, and there you can build your own character or set of characters with that. It's also good practice, even if you're used to building characters. This could be a lot of fun. So that is building your world. I will try to, maybe make this part available so that everyone can do it for fun. And I would like to thank Afro Comic Con for all of this. This was great. Had a great time. And please remember, I just have one closing thing to mention. about the donations. So thank you for Afro Comic Con 2020. Please consider donating to the Afro Comic Con Moonshot Junior program that funds young girls of color to go through a 12-month program where they will learn tech skills, innovation, product development, and entrepreneurship. Please click the donation link. Any amount will help. More information will be on the website. Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So you can find Dill on dillcomics.com. You can also find all of my work on drcalyn.com. That's drcalyn.com. And at Dr. Calyn on Instagram. You can also watch Dill Comics on YouTube. So Dr. Calyn Pickens Rich.